Okay, so today want to focus on integrating both A-roll and B-roll into Premiere. And as usual, I've got my folder here, Practice 2, where I've got both my Premiere file that I have open right now, as well as all my different clips, some of the ones I used last week from Jordan Caroline and Nelly's group, as well as a new clip here, courtesy of Tanner, Jocelyn, and Emma. So
For us
we've
fans,
got
we
this
call it.
interview outside of Melcher. We're going to integrate it all together. So we'll start here, and we see I've integrated the footage. This group has already renamed it A-roll. I like that. It just kind of makes it stand out from my other B-roll clips. I also am a fan of just renaming the clips. You can either do it on the clip title here, or maybe even easier within Premiere. You just, rename it, close up writing or whatever it is. Especially if you have a lot of footage, it's just sometimes nice. Of course, I could probably also just look at it here, up to you. I sometimes go over the top in terms of labeling just because I like to have things um, in the right place, and so they're easy to find while I'm editing. So I start, as would make sense, with the A-roll. This is my base track, and if I'm looking in the sequencer here, if I'm looking in my timeline, I always want to have my A-roll, the video on track one, and the audio on track one. And then as I build out, I layer stuff on top of it, right? So if I'm adding music or if I'm adding some of the clip audio on top of the A-roll, that's all going down here. But this should be the base level right in the middle. That way you don't overlap anything. You don't cut any of the most important stuff. I've got that as my base. Okay, as I listen through here.
So, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Tanner, and I'm a huge fan of
So this
Melcher's
particular
Hall.
group, they've done they kind of have Jocelyn like conducting the interview with Tanner. And I mean, you can definitely work that into your format. In this case, I'm just going to edit this to where I only hear Tanner. So I'm essentially going to edit the interview, in this case, Jocelyn, out of it. So I like to do this in the timeline and basically use the razor tool over here, or also the C hotkey if you're in
So,
the
tell us
hotkeys.
about yourself.
Hi, I'm Tanner, and
There's
I'm
that
a
beginning,
huge fan
cut
of
that.
Melcher's Hall at UMW.
Oh, so this is what the building is
there.
called?
Yes, the name is Melcher's, but for us fans, we call it Melch.
Oh, okay. So tell me a little bit about it.
So Melcher's Hall was founded in
And I'll just cut that way until
1701 during the
I have
Prohibition
only
era as a
what I need.
storehouse.
Wow.
Oop.
Okay.
Zoomed out too much.
Okay. So what?
Storehouse.
Wow. Okay.
Also note a nice thing. I don't know if Jocelyn meant to do this, but never, in very rare cases, does she ever talk over Tanner. That's super important because I actually can edit around it. I'm thinking of when you're interviewing somebody, there is that kind of, we want to acknowledge what they're saying and be like, okay, interesting, things like that. It's a nightmare for an editor because you can't do what I'm doing right now. You can't extract the interviewer's voice from the interviewer. So kudos, Jocelyn, for making sure you didn't talk over him.
So what are your personal experiences in the building?
Due to the unique layout of the building, when I was a freshman, I was actually trapped.
Okay, and I would go through the clip as such and cut it that way. Cooking show style, I've already got this prepared. So here we have it, and I'll go back from my razor tool to my selection tool up there. And I've now got all of just the clips of Tanner talking. Now, this is only 33 seconds or so, and that's not a bad thing. I actually think for a minute-long video, about 30 seconds to 40 seconds of talking is pretty good. What you don't want is wall-to-wall talking. You want a nice break for people's ears, show off some of the footage, maybe show some intro text, things like that, and that's all of what we're going to do. So, in fact, that's exactly how I want to open it. Instead of just going right to Tanner, I'm going to open on a graphic. So I'm going to take my kind of main, this nice kind of hillside video here. I'm going to pop that right on top and build some video over it. Now, this again, I use the in-out points here. You see I've already set my in and my out point there. And the other reason I like using the viewer here is because instead of just pulling this in where I have, this is a very windy day, I really have no use for that audio, right? I don't need it. So in that case, I could just grab the video only, drag that, and only have it there. You notice again, I'm putting it on video too. I'm not putting it on that track. I think that's just good practice. Think about this as B-roll, A-roll. It's really a smart thing to separate them. Even if I'm not showing the video here, it's just for organizational purposes, the better way to edit. Okay, so I'm going to have that play for a while, maybe for about 5 seconds or so. Let's have it maybe a little bit longer. There we go. And I'm going to put my text over it. And with this, I like using kind of natural space within the video. I got a nice bit of sky there. So excuse me if I misspell Melchers. Melcher. I'm going to pause the video, make sure I'm not spelling that wrong. That'd be embarrassing. Okay, got it right. Good. Melchers Hall. Great. And I could give it a more interesting name, play around with that. Obviously, I wouldn't want white text against the sky like that. Text is, I'm going to make a whole nother video about this particular subject. I also like sometimes you can choose a color within the video. So maybe I'll choose that brown color, something like that, just to kind of make it feel a little bit more natural within there. And I can kind of put it in the corner. I can make it a little bit bigger. However, I want to integrate this thing in to where it looks nice to me. You can also, I like adding sometimes effects to it. So I can put on a video transition, for instance, here, go to video transitions, dissolve, and I can maybe have it fade in with a cross dissolve and maybe even fade out if I wanted. So kind of enters in like that. And even if I want to speed that transition up, I want it to come in faster. It's just a matter of how long I keep that cross dissolve, either very, very slow or very, very fast. The text doesn't look great, but again, we're doing this quick. Nice little quick title over there. So starting, there's Melchers Hall. And then,
hi, I'm Tanner.
Oops, would want that to end right at the same time. That's always awkward if it's kind of like that.
Hi,
that just looks kind of unprofessional. So you want to make sure it's cutting off right at the same time.
Hi, I'm Tanner, and I'm
going to have the high. I'm going to do a little bit of a J cut, which is where you overlap the audio and the video a little bit. So I'm going to have that high.
I'm Tanner, and I'm a huge fan of Melchers Hall at UMW.
Then I'm going to cut back to the footage, and then I'm going to play a few clips, right? Now, in classic B-roll, I would just continue having him speak, and I would go back over to my clips and I'd start adding them, right? So I'd maybe start with this close up here. Maybe I'm going to use just the video, and I'd put just that there. And then maybe I'd add another clip, maybe a wider shot right there. But instead, what I'm going to do is have a little bit of a break here. So I'm going to just have Tanner introduce himself. I'm going to let some of the clips play out a little bit. And as I'm assembling these little B-roll sequences, I usually use about 3 clips if I'm building a sequence. What you don't want to do is just kind of bounce back and forth where it's like, all right, we see this.
Hall at UMW. Yes, the name is Melchers, but for us fans,
then
we call
bounce
it Melch.
back.
So Melchers Hall was founded in 1701 during the
we bounce back there. Usually it's always better practice to layer a couple clips, have a nice little sequence in the B-roll. So maybe I'll do that and then move over to, maybe I'll have this image right here. Keep doing that. There we go. And kind of put it together that way. And again, you don't always need to have the interview playing. Because I have more space, I'm gonna let these clips play a little bit, and then I'm gonna have Tanner come in a little bit later here. There we go. And I'm just kind of grabbing all these. Oops. Make sure I move them all together.
Yes, the name is Melchers, but for us fans, we call it Melch. So Melchers Hall was founded in...
So the most important thing here is what you really want to do is avoid ever showing the transitions between clips, right? So in this case, I have all these different clips, and I've got these cuts that I've made. Let me get this clip right next to it so you can see it, right? I have all these cuts.
So Melchers...
Now on YouTube, TikTok, we see these all the time, this jump cut, and it's not a big deal there. But for this type of video making, this kind of more professional oriented one, we don't want to see those cuts, and we don't have to. That's the beauty of B-roll. I can hide those cuts by putting video over that transition.
But for us fans, we call it Melch. So Melchers Hall was founded in 1701.
Just like that, right? So it seems continuous. It seems like Tanner's on his same kind of thought process, but we have that nice cut even there, right? All right, so I'll have him talk for a little bit, maybe add a little bit more B-roll. There we go. Right. And again, it's very much up to you how you want to layer this particular A roll. For me, as I'm watching footage, I tend to try to find, all right, what is the most interesting thing that person's saying, or if they're maybe
For
using
about 3
their
days.
hands in a way that's communicating something in particular. That's when I want to show the A roll and kind of give the B roll a break. Otherwise, right, if I'm not really learning anything new, if I'm not seeing anything new as far as the interview, I've already established, okay, I see Tanner. I know he's the one speaking. I see he's on the porch of Melchers. Great. I don't necessarily need to keep seeing him. So with the visual side of it, maybe I want to show these more interesting shots that I've put together, right? And that's where I would really kind of, prioritize that sort of footage. So maybe have this a little bit, do a nice one of, what else do we have? We have the colonnade. I'm already kind of running out of footage here, but that's okay. And also, just to kind of wrap it up here, is to have some nice matches, right? So in this case, at the very
outside
end,
Melchers Hall, it really reminds me that anything can be art. Anything.
anything can be art. Very good. All right. Probably would make sense to show some art while that's happening, right? Or maybe even better, I have this reaction. I have this nice. Great. So probably don't need the laughing, but
It really reminds me that anything can be art. Anything.
great. Nice match.